Hello, welcome to episode 19 of the Isuzu UTE A-League download. I'm Max Rushden. This is Archie Thompson, and this is Thomas Sørensen. You don't get better broadcasters in this room in Melbourne at 9:30 on a Monday morning. Welcome, chaps. How are we?
Yeah, very good,
Yeah,
mate.
good.
Very good.
Good weekend, wasn't it? Interesting. Obviously, massive win for Auckland over Wellington. Hammered them, didn't they, in the Kiwi Classico. I've just learned the third one of the season. Very exciting. Maybe there are 8 of them. This is great. Maybe they keep on coming. Wellington will not like that, will they? It's not really fair on Wellington that they keep having to play. Decent Melbourne Derby, ended 2-2. West United, smashed Adelaide. That was 3. Could have been about 1,000, couldn't it? We're going to do a bit on the under-20s who are through to the World Cup. Under-20 World Cup for the first time in, somebody tell me, 12 years. And a well done to Sydney, who won in Bangkok in the Asian Champions League. Let's start with the Kiwi Classico. Auckland 6, Wellington 1. And do you know what? We've said quite a few times, hey, look, Auckland are winning, and they're sort of digging it out. They're grinding out results. It's nothing too special. I mean, they were pretty good this weekend.
You know, I thought that the whole thing was great. You know, again, the stadium was rocking, and they lived up to what we expected. They were on the front foot. I thought they more or less, they bullied Wellington. Wellington couldn't deal with the crosses, couldn't deal with the second balls. Didn't win. Didn't do the things that you have to do in a derby. You know, I was looking at some of the goals, and you just think like, oh, that player could have done 5% more, and they turn their back trying to block it. They don't make a full-on effort, and you know the punch from the keeper wasn't 100%, and it's just they pounced on it, and I think that's what they've done this season. They've been a unit. Corrigan has got them fired up, and if I was Wellington, you know, I would soak that all up and use it. Put it in a bag.
Would you make them watch it? Would they be in there today?
Actually, I probably would, and say like, that if that's not motivation for next year, because they've been embarrassed. Like this new kid on the block has come in and had absolutely taken over in all, like not just on the pitch but off the pitch. You know, everything they've done around the stadium. The atmosphere they've created there. So if there's not a goal for next year for Wellington is definitely to step up in that derby and punch back.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it's off the pitch. Is that a bit harsh on Wellington? Because, you know, Auckland are new. It's easy to say, look, we're new. Yeah. And Wellington go, we're still here, guys. You know, like the marketing thing is much easier if you're a new side, right? I mean, Auckland have done everything incredibly well.
Auckland is also a bigger market. Like, we have to be fair that, you know, there's still, I think, 3 times the amount of people. So... but, you know, again, it's a challenge. And I think that's where, you know, yes, it's happened. But as a Wellington manager, administration, players and everything else, you know, wow, if you haven't got a motivation for next year, you know, this is definitely it. Because, yeah, it was a demolition and fair play to Auckland. I think they were brilliant.
Do you think it's good for the rivalry? Like, because you want it to be organic, right? You don't want to just say, you guys, oh, here you are in a room, have a fight, you hate each other. But actually, it's kind of good that one side has just such an advantage.
Yeah.
Because it starts building this pressure. You know, you sort of year on, you think next season, okay.
Yeah.
Wellington will be like, if they don't win the first one, it'll be like, we're never going to do this.
Yeah, well, it's been, they've already had the 3 matches and Auckland have won all those. So, you know, and even still with the franchise being new, you still have to perform on the pitch to be able to have the atmosphere they're having. And they have done that. And it does. I mean, Wellington it's very unlikely that they look like they'll be making finals. I just don't think they've got enough pep up front to really do anything this year. But for Auckland, I think I look at their progression throughout the year. It's from a team that was defensively very strong, and then Steve Corica was saying that they wanted to be a little bit better when they had possession of the ball and scoring goals. Well, they're doing that now, and they've got the defensive side sorted. They are, without doubt, probably one of the toughest teams in the league at the moment, and it's very hard to see that team faltering and going on and winning the league. I know there's still a lot of games to be had, and there's a big game on the weekend when they play Adelaide that can bridge that gap, but I watch that team. It's I've seen all the other teams, but this one's very, very consistent.
Yeah?
Yeah, they got Neno Moreno. Like he came in late. You know, just before the season started.
And he does arrive late into the box, doesn't he?
He's just late totally in general. But yeah, like his timing, obviously, he's big on confidence. And he seems to be popping up at the right place at the right time. And Logan Rutchinson, we got to comment on him. Potentially, he should be credited with Moreno's second goal.
Yes.
I think the ball might be going wide, and he's. But you know what? I don't think they care. Either of them would have got a hat trick. I think the only positive for Wellington is Luke Brooks-Smith, who came on, scored a goal, and I think there was a great story about that he had promised his mother or grandmother or something.
His mum.
No, his mum. Yeah, and but also to add to that story, he also then makes a mistake for Nero Moreno. He passes it straight to him. So, it was just not Wellington's day in general. But, again, take nothing away from Auckland. They were absolutely brilliant in every department.
And they had for Wellington, I did like Geraldez. Is it Geraldez?
Yeah, the new player. At least he
I think he looks like someone that kind of suits the play that the Chiefy likes, the manager for Wellington. And you also got Marco Rojas back. It's good to have those players back. I just think that's maybe a little bit late.
Is Chiefy untouchable? Is he under pressure? I feel like I get the sense that he is an untouchable.
No, I see. Again, I think along with the team and the club, I think he's been humbled as well. A little bit. He was very confident early on, but also I think it's sometimes good. I don't think there was a question after. Do you feel under pressure? And this is the classic, journalist question when things are not going great, but. Again, he's definitely a bright managerial talent. You can definitely sense that he thinks a lot and sometimes maybe overthinks it. But he has some great ideas and he's been hindered by injuries. I think Rojas. I think that's they've lacked someone. Rufus been out. They've lacked that player that hopefully Geraldez can be as well. That transition player because Barbarouses a lot of times have been left by himself. They've been not great enough in that transition where they've been normally good. So, what? I think, I don't think he should be under pressure. He's a young manager, talented manager.
Yeah. I was looking up Neider Moreno. He's got an engineering degree from the Institución Universitaria Pascual Bravo in Medellin.
Wow. Okay.
It's a fascinating city.
With honours?
Sort of, I don't know what result he got. Probably a 2-1. Don't they? But it makes you sort of think about the scouting in the A-League. How on earth do you find some engineer wandering around Medellin? I mean...
But that's why also sometimes it works out, sometimes it does, because you have to branch out. And again,
this is such a hard job to say, right, we're building a squad. You've got to look around the whole world and go, who's going to fit and who's going to think this is a great move for your family and all those kind of things as well.
Yeah, you understand why sometimes it doesn't end up a success. And, he's definitely come in and has adapted really quickly. As a substitute early on, but now he's into a starting role, and he's definitely in great form. I think he's on 8 goals or 7.
Well,
it
depends, doesn't it? It depends. I think I'd like to give, because I did some research on Moreno, and I've done no research on Logan Rogerson. I've no idea what his academic record is at school or university. But I think it's probably Rogerson's hat trick, isn't it?
Yeah, I think technically, I think we can agree. Maybe we should give it to him.
And so well done, Auckland. I mean, it's like I almost couldn't ask for more when they started that, because their CEO, right, used to go to the same cafe as me, right, and he'd say,
he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, Nick, and he was like, I'm just going over to Auckland to run a football team. I was like, that's interesting. Have a good one. See you, mate. And to build that from it's sort of like Football Manager, but in real life, for him and the team that they built around him to go, we'll play there and we'll get these guys and all this. To have worked out this well is extraordinary.
And all the way back to their first training session where they actually didn't have any balls. They had to go out and buy them, in a sports shop, just
from a garage,
just for the first
those plastic balls that fly everywhere.
This is where you start from absolute scratch and nothing. So that makes it even a better story.
That's great, isn't it?
Everyone has come together.
That just in the WhatsApp. Has anyone got the ball? Has anyone got a pump? You got a pump? Anyone got a pump? Go to the next pitch. You got a pump?
Well, that was like us with Melbourne Victory when we first started.
Really?
We had the Nike balls. They had the proper Nike balls. And then we used to call them the servo.
Right. Yeah.
You didn't.
Plastic,
they bend the other way, don't
and
they?
They go up that way. I'm sure I passed it there, but they went that way. And you tried to avoid using it, but it was just what we could deal with at the time. So yeah, those are beautiful stories when you look at where they've come.
Let's go to the Melbourne Derby then. 2-2. I think they used quite a high top of the range football. It looked like in this game. I sort of think Melbourne City could have been out of sight.
No, I sit here as a Melbourne City fan. I was like, I was screaming in that first half because, like, they should have been 3-0 up. You know, Romani, you know, he did everything brilliant. Same as last weekend against Perth. Exactly the same position. He cuts inside. He does everything right, and then he hits it. Like, he has, like, you know, as a striker, like, he's got half the goal. Like, just hit it across the keeper, far corner, and he sort of panics a little bit.
But isn't that the fascinating thing about being a centre forward? In that, if that was a pass to a player, right, you could pass it to his feet, and that is a smaller target. Unless you've got a very wide teammate, it's like it's the same thing, but there's something about the goal that separates, you know, great centre forwards from ones who just can't.
Yeah, but he's a young player,
of course.
And he's done really well. You know, now we're net picking that. You know, Melbourne City had the chances. They had 2 or 3 good chances, just not hitting the right spots. I think it was great for them to have Andreas Kuhn back. I think you can just see they play with a different momentum. You know, he provides a lot of creativity, and I thought, you know, Tilio, great first goal. So they had everything going for them, and then you get that knockout with a penalty just before halftime, and fair play to Victory. They came out in the second half and were a different team.
Just on the opening goal, I think the dummy might be my favourite skill in football.
Yeah.
It's lecky, isn't it? It's just like, I don't need to touch that.
As a Victory player or as a team, like, it comes from a nothing throw-in.
Yeah.
You know, it's just thrown in, flicked on, dummy, and then it's a goal. So, you know, it's not the way you want to start a game, you know, because they've got 10 players back there. So from their perspective, it was a bit of a poor start, but Tilio, great finish.
Is the penalty a penalty? It's one of those where you could watch it, I reckon, 2,500 times.
Yeah.
Still not know what it is, and then wonder what you're doing with your life.
Yeah.
If you just watch that 2,500 times.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen it so many times. Like, if a defender is about to clear the ball, he's got only eyes for the ball. He doesn't know where the attacker is or the opposition, and he goes to kick it, and they just nick in or get a foot into where he's about to, you know, lump the ball. 9 times out of 10, even 10 out of 10 times, that's a penalty these days because we can rewind it, look at it VR. And unfortunately for City, that was the case in that situation. And, you know, the way that Mashash sort of stepped up and took that penalty very, very calmly when someone that's probably not scored as many goals as he would like to this season. But for me, that was a penalty. And, City did look great. And I was a bit worried about the way that they were going forward. I thought Lecky was just immense in that first half, how he can just get the ball, find space, drive his energy. He creates. He's just such a great player when he's playing well. So I was really a bit worried. And like you say, football can turn very quickly. It was a great 1-2 from Santos, and I really like. We give lots of raps on Ryan Teague, and why not? Because he's been good. But I think his partner's just been as good as like with Western United. We always talk about Thurgate, but I think Bozanovski's been awesome too. You got to have a Robin to your Batman, as I like to always say. And that pass that Valadon gave to I think Santos was just beautiful. Like, he had to pause for a little bit. Normally you'd be thinking, okay, I've got to play it quickly. He just took it, sucked in a defender. Bajic, maybe only time he didn't track back, but Bajic was outstanding.
Bajic was great. It was probably the only mistake, and you could see him after. He was killing himself because it's the classic mistake of watching the ball. Right, he watches inside, looks at the ball, player runs. Instead of, he should really just cover Santos, and then whatever happens inside, you know, you got to trust the defenders. But take nothing away from that 1-2, and Santos has been fantastic. You know, he scored some great goals, and then the momentum swung again. You know, so it was that game where maybe at the end you were sort of more, maybe Melbourne City can win this after the penalty. So, you know, I thought it lived up to the billing. I thought it was a really good derby. There was a bit of fight. Maybe, you know, you can question should have been a few more yellow cards. But you know, again, I like the. You know, I know both managers were out and criticising the referee, but I thought the referee dealt with it nicely. I think in a derby, you want to let it run a little bit. You want it, you know, as long as it doesn't go overboard. I think it should be allowed to.
Maybe you want a few punches, Dan.
But it adds to like what do we want? Like, do we want these big intense derbies, or do we just want to kill it? I'm not saying we should not abide to the rules, but again, you can
just some mild peril, moderate
as long as it goes both ways. As long as both teams get treated the same way. Yeah, I've got no problem with it.
Who was it who committed the foul for the City penalty? Miranda. Do you know what I loved about it is, because obviously a Stonewall penalty is there. He does the upturn like a turtle on his back, doesn't he, going, look how small, I'm a woodlouse. It couldn't possibly
Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it.
My legs aren't that long, look at me. Really made me laugh. It was like if he could have rolled into a little ball and then just rolled away. But here we are, 2-2. They're both in the top 6. They'll both probably be okay. With that, when they, I just noticed that Lockie Jackson came in for his victory debut. How many 18-year-olds are called Lockie in Australia? It's like every other Australian is called Lockie. Was there like a famous Lachlan in like about 20 years ago?
From Scotland?
I don't think so.
It sounds like a Scottish name.
Did like somebody run Australia? Was there like a reality show where Lachlan won the first ever Big Brother, and everyone was like, "Go, we've got to call our kid Lockie."
I reckon it's happened more so now, because I remember being an Archie. Yeah. Like, I felt like I was the only Archie in Australia.
Then that's why there are so many Archies now, because of you.
I started it.
Archie Goodwin.
Archie Goodwin. I mean, it's crazy. And now Lachlan seems to be...
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Avoid them if you can. I'm kidding. No. Who's your favourite Lockie? Rose, obviously. Newcastle Jets 3, Brisbane Roar 1. What do you make of this one, Thomas?
I'm just happy that I didn't jinx the Newcastle Jets after my prediction last week. But again, I think they did what they had to do. I think, Kota, I think got his first goal. I think it was great. He's been great, like we talked about. And
good feet from Lockie Bayliss is another one in the build-up to that.
It's all of them. Eli Adams, and again, Rose. Again, he does a little pirouette and then passes it on. So, again, I think they did what they had to do. And I think Brisbane had a couple of chances, but I think overall, I don't think you could argue with the win. And they've got a week off now before they play Adelaide. So, now with the way this table have, they really need some wins to get in that 6th spot. So, it'll be interesting, going forward to see, because they seem to be a team that are going definitely in the right direction and gelling. Aquilina, I thought as well was.
What about that strike?
Yeah, they had,
the one that hits the post.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
No, they had some crackers. So I think they are definitely they're doing okay.
Anything to add?
No. Look,
if Thomas says it right, just go. I totally absolutely
agree.
right.
I think the first goal was just sums up Newcastle right now. Like, that was beautiful play, the way that they set that up, and like you touched on with Bayliss. I mean, he could have snatched at that. But composure saw Cotta, and that was his first goal of the season. You can already see he's got his own little fan club. It's turning into a big fan club of what he's done already in Newcastle. But they were really, really good. I think who was it? Clayton. He's scored 3 goals in 3 consecutive games, so he's starting to get a lot of confidence. I'm starting to really agree with Thomas in that they can really give a real push to this finals. I don't want to jinx them, but
they need a good run. Again,
they need to win every single game.
Yeah, and hopefully they Auckland will win against Adelaide, and they'll go into hibernation, and then Newcastle can get a win, because that will definitely kick on the momentum. But it's going to be a stretch, but I think they can do it. I think they definitely have the momentum.
Let's go to Western United Adelaide. Because they played the wind well. I was really focusing on how windy it gets there. But, I mean, Western United, they battered Adelaide. And I don't know if that was... If you expected that, and I know it's a tricky place to go and play, and good on Western United for creating somewhere that is a hard place to go. But Adelaide did not show up in this game.
When you start hearing managers, put that rhetoric out, because that's what Carl Vertsen, this is a tough place. It's always a tough place. And... then you are in the heads of the opposition. So, fair play to Western United, and they definitely, a little bit like Auckland, they were totally over Adelaide, and Adelaide is only 1 win in their last 5, and they'd had this game and they had the game against Sydney where they just really weren't at the races. Ethan Cox, I thought, in the first half, definitely kept them in the game with some saves. Obviously makes a mistake late on. But Botic, again, getting on the end of it. And he does well. He has this sort of late run and he's, in the box and just pops up and takes the chance. So, a lot of players, I think, played well. The midfield, I think, for Adelaide, I just feel, they're just not, in some games they sort of disappear, they lose control and can get overwrought a little bit. And, again, I think, Dan Saki obviously gets that last goal. Quality, I thought, was brilliant. And then great to hear him come out after the game and talk about this is his second home, where he's come from. And, so that is a great story. And he's definitely playing with, he's taking his chance. Another young guy that's taking his chance.
Yeah.
You agree with Thomas?
Yeah, no, I do. I think when I think of that first goal that they scored, Botic making that late run, it was just constructed so beautifully.
Yeah, Grimaldo's brilliant.
Yes. I think it was a poor ball played out to Tate. He takes a touch, plays it Grimaldi plays it to the run on to Wallity. Garuccio plays a ball across. It was all one-touch football. It was just amazing. And then I think for Adelaide, definitely big loss was Dylan Perez. He pulled up sick for this game. You can see how much that Adelaide miss him. Also to Ryan Kiddo on the left-hand side. When you got Alagic, makeshift, I know he's played that position before. Adelaide are so much better when he's in the central mid. He just gives a bit more energy. Ryan White in there, maybe not the sort of type of player as Alagic. I think you lose a lot when he's playing out in that left position. And they just were a bit toothless up front. Goodwin, I think he had 5 touches. It seemed like in the whole game, like an Erling Haaland, but he wasn't even scoring. So I think, they need to really try and make
so sad to be compared to Erling Haaland, but the bits where he doesn't do anything, isn't it?
No. I've compared Lucky Rolls where he scores, so So it's Haaland's getting the good and the bad in the end.
So is Haaland a flat track bully? It's the question that everybody asks.
But West United were very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very
Adelaide missing a couple with the young Socceroos as well, which makes a difference.
Yeah, there's a few teams that are obviously missing out, but again, that's how you have to deal with it. In previous years, it's been with the Socceroos.
Yes.
All the manager was always moaning about losing 3 or 4 players, and but hopefully, it would be great if the international windows would be, outside in general. So, but.
Let's go to the best moment of the weekend, which was in Western Sydney Wanderers' 4-0 win over Central Coast. The opening goal. I've watched this so many times. I mean, I love Route 1 football. You obviously, Thomas, But it's got everything you want, right? It's got a centre-back taking a goal kick. I'm already excited. Keeper coming out. It's his first game. Oh, God, poor guy. And it's a lot. He really strikes the ball, so it's got much more on it, doesn't it?
No, again, it's not a hopeless strike. If you see it from behind, it's a run as well. Like he sees something,
and he sees it and he goes
and he executes. And Tony Pulis has added him on social media because he loves him, wants to sign him in his next. But again, for Patalic, is this Palicic, is his first game.
Oh man!
Overall, again, he commits the. Questionable, but he commits the penalty and then he saves it and he's off his line. It just wasn't an overall great game, for Central Coast. Yeah. And just losing a little bit of chance of getting into the finals.
Now, do you think, right? And obviously, it's a goal kick. You can't score direct from a goal kick, right? So Sapsford isn't taking the goal off the keeper. But do you think he should just let it roll in?
No,
just to say,
I've never seen any striker let that.
Okay, if he
somebody else deserves it.
Then 2 other questions, right? Should he either then stop the ball, get on his hands and knees and head it in, or absolutely hammer the thing? I'm disappointed in the finish from Sapsford, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I am too. I would have liked to have seen him stop it and head it across.
Absolutely.
That would have been a total humiliation.
Take the mick. It would have been good. It would have been.
the back heel he then follows it up with for Clisby. And
Yeah.
you know when Clisby runs
it's
inside
brilliant.
and scores, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
He doesn't score many goals, but it was fantastic another setup. So I think Sap's a fantastic season he's having. He's obviously great at scoring in derbies, but this one, you take easy goals. I'm
Yeah.
sure as a striker, you don't care how you score them.
Yeah.
It's another tick on the chart.
Yeah.
I'd take it away from him for just not doing something. And actually, even the third one, the deflected one, Pavlicic has to lie on the floor as this ball goes at no miles an hour, and he knows there's nothing he can do. And he's just there going, "Oh God, what a day I'm having!" And he's like, then he's going to lie there. He can think about everything. He literally go through his entire life, and he just has come to this moment before this sails over his head. Anyway, how good are Western Sydney Wanderers?
Again, I think now they've jumped right up the table, and they definitely seem to have momentum. I think overall, they're playing well. Creative, there could be there's a shout for a penalty. Caltech, I think, brought it down, and so could have been even worse. But I quite like what Mark Jackson did afterwards. He could single a few players out and everything else, and he just came out and said, like, we made too many mistakes as a team. He didn't single the keeper out because they were trying to sort of put some wedges in there, and he took it on the chin.
I think people did notice the keeper making some mistakes. It was good of him. Yeah,
but obviously he's backing because he made a tough choice.
Yes.
Barrett Collin, I think, has been good.
Yes.
You try, like, as a manager, sometimes you're looking, hopefully, a keeper. We saw it with Newcastle. The keeper came in, played great for 2 games, and we've seen it, at Wellington. So sometimes you're looking for that momentum. It's maybe a keeper coming on, having a worldie, and that can be a kickstart.
Yeah.
That backfired a little bit, and he's obviously protecting that decision. But I think in general, they were just not that. They were just beaten by a better side, and
And it was an early goal. Like, still, Central Coast could have got back into the game, but Western Sydney were very, very good.
Yeah.
They pressured them, didn't let them breathe after they conceded the goal, Central Coast. And then that second goal was great. But, this is, for Western Sydney, first time they've actually put a couple of wins together. They look consistent. So, it's exciting times for Western Sydney. We were all kind of waiting for this club to kick on. They're starting to show some glimpses because we know how good Western Sydney are from a fan base point of view when the team's doing well. And we want them to come back. And you feel like with the football they're playing, this could be a turning point for them.
Let's go to Perth Glory 0, Sydney FC 0. We don't have to spend hours
No, let's not.
on this game. Look, it's actually more to say Sydney they've come off a really big week, haven't they?
Yeah.
their travel, like to go to Bangkok and then actually having to fly to Perth as well.
And they had to stay in a backpackers hostel on the Koh San Road.
Is that been confirmed?
Yeah.
Okay. Bunk beds and everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect. No, but I think, the positive were 2 good goalkeeping performances. I think, Devilish Mears made a couple of good saves in the first half. Oliver Sale has that double save.
Yes,
It's
brilliant.
actually difficult because
Beautiful.
initially I was like, I should have done better with the first one, but it has a lot of movement. Like Douglas Costa strikes it and it sort of swerves a bit, gets behind it, and then he does really well on the follow-up. I think one of the positives for Perth is, like, they had a couple of chances in the first half. That Taggart had that great control.
Oh, it's such a shame that wasn't a
It could
goal.
have been goal of the season
I
if
agree.
he completes it. So they had some chances, but then that would have been a game that early in the season they would have lost. They would have made a mistake, or they wouldn't have followed through with the defending. But I think you can see the players. I think Luke Amos, who is a new player that we talked about last week with the Tottenham background and everything. I thought he was really good in midfield, and that's what they've been lacking. So. Again, it's definitely looking positive for them. I think it was a good result. So 0-0. It wasn't the best game of all time, but I think Perth, I think they'll see progress.
Yeah, and with Sydney, this is a really telling time for them because they're not in the 6. They've got to go to MacArthur on the weekend. They've got to go to John Book Motors in Korea on the Thursday. Come back, play another match, and then. The return leg of the Korean game.
So balancing your squad is really hard.
And if you're not, you've got to balance your squad, get them all fit and recovered, and you still not in that six when you're thinking on the league, but you still want to progress in the elite Champions League elite. So I mean, it's going to be.
If you had to put your eggs in one basket, which would it be? To clarify for viewers who aren't necessarily experts, this is sort of like the Europa League of the, this is Champions League sort of second tier, right? Yeah. So they could be one of the best teams in that level.
Yeah, well, Central Coast won it last year,
right?
So for Sydney to do it, I'd be. I mean, you want to try to find that balance. You want to do well in that, but you also want to do well in the league. I think you try to just get your best team fit and try to recover and work it out. And it's really testing the depth for your squad and the players that you got. But I'd be wanting to do well in both of the competitions.
And in terms of how fans judge these competitions, where does this one sit?
Well, if you win this, you go into the Asian Champions League next season.
Got it.
So it's important for them to and
a trophy's a trophy, right?
Yeah. It's a trophy,
but also but for Australian football as well. Like it's you've got a responsibility in that direction. I'm sure you get points of where Australia rank in general. So I think they've got a good enough squad. Douglas Costa, we've seen him. Early in the season where he struggled a little bit after Champions League. I remember he didn't travel to Auckland earlier in the season and got that hamstring issue. But, I think that there's games, obviously, but they've got one travel. Now they've got Perth out of the way. Got one travel, obviously, to Korea. Is it Korea?
Yeah,
to Korea. But then I don't think it's that bad after. So I'm sure they can find a way to do some massages and go to the spa. I'm sure they can find a way because, again, they're well staffed and you just got to try to find a way around.
Actually, the goal, Segacic is a great strike.
Yeah,
and Costa as well. He's just, if you're playing against him, you know what he's going to do, right? It's like slightly slower Arjen Robben, right? Just like he's going to go there and bend it in the corner. Just stand there in the first place.
He's so good. Well. Like the defender knows that he just gets it out of his feet. That first step, boom. He's got that quick release.
Yeah, and Adrian Segacic, I think he's been unbelievable. The last 5-6 matches he scored in I think the last 5 and bombs, by the way, too. Like he is one exciting, but I love the way that he just drops a shoulder, he lets the ball kind of run across his body, he takes players on, and he's got a real good knack of finding the back of the net. I think this year's been unbelievable for him. I think he's learning a lot from Douglas Costa because just incredible.
Let's talk about the Johnny Warren medal. Obviously, I didn't grow up in Australia, but I obviously know what a legend Johnny Warren was for Australian football. And obviously, I know all from Craig Foster losing his mind. John Aloisi scored the penalty, wasn't it, after Shortridge made those saves? Johnny Warren! It's an amazing, even if you're not a Socceroos fan, that penalty shootout and that moment is just, I could watch that again and again and again. Who do you reckon's who's going to go?
I think it's a hard one at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan Teague's up there. We were having a chat before this. Is he doing enough to be that player of the year? I don't know, but he seems to be very, very consistent. Lolly seems to have been a bit quiet.
In the last couple of weeks, he's had a really good
I don't know,
season
ever since you followed him.
Yeah.
Or he followed you.
Yeah.
He followed you.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
So I hope that he still sticks with it and still follows you after he sees this.
That's
if he's
okay.
watching.
No, it's fine.
But I would have to say if at the moment it seems to be Ryan Teague.
You're looking for that ultimate player that makes a difference, that are that game decider in either whatever capacity that is. And I agree, Teague has been really good. Again, it's all momentum. You got Botic got momentum at the moment. You got Neto Moreno's got momentum.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes defenders are overlooked, but Nando Paniker, I think, has had a great season. Scored a couple of goals, but he's been very, very consistent. I think it's been a big part of that Auckland back line. But they get overlooked at times, the defensive players. I don't think there's been a goalkeeper that's been enough. Paulson will probably get maybe Golden Glove, but so it'll probably be an attacking player, and it's definitely, I think, for me, still up for grabs. I think there's a lot of players that are like showing a lot of things, but Lolly was the early contender.
Yeah.
Now he's sort of dropped off, and other players are. So it'd be interesting to see in the last sort of 9 games. Like it's great because there's no consensus on one player, I feel.
Yeah, and you can put a little run on. I mean, we see with Anthony from Manchester United goes to Real Betis. He's got, I just saw this morning, so it's stuck in my head. He's got 3 man of the match performances, consecutive games. That's never happened before for a player that comes into the, not even Bellingham or like any of these players. So, I don't know why I said that, but
no, that's okay.
He could win the Johnny Warren.
He could win the Johnny Warren. Good luck to him. Like anyone leaves Man United, they instantly get better, don't they? So as far as I can tell, that is 3 votes. 3 votes from the Isuzu UTE A-League download panel for Angus Thurgate. So well done. Cancel the rest of the games. Let's just briefly touch on the young Socceroos. They beat Iraq 3-2. It's a cracking game, wasn't it? Great comeback. Some brilliant goals in this game. Jovanovic scored from about 2 miles away. I'd have to lay up. I'd have to play I'd play a 7-iron and then another 7, I think, for that. He was 200 miles away.
I think he's still lying there, disappointed.
He had to sit down. Qualified for the Under-20 World Cup for the first time in 12 years. So that's great.
It's fantastic. But again, hopefully, the trend we're seeing is that young players, we see it in the A-League. There's, the flourish of, even in that squad, there's a good amount of A-League players, but also good young players that are playing abroad. So it seems, there's a bit of momentum because, I must say, honestly, I was worried. You see the drop off a little bit, and again with not qualifying, but for these players now to get that exposure to go to Chile to play against the best talent on the planet, I think it's fantastic. And we saw Kikianis obviously getting the 2nd goal. Jovanovic obviously in the A-League. Bartoletto.
It's a great hit from him as well.
Yeah, so he's now at Victory. That's a fantastic, I think, advertisement for local football and for young players.
Yeah, and I will say too, I feel that this year that maybe we've had to use a lot of these young players, and so for them, they've developed playing in the A-League against men week in, week out. They're playing consistently, which transfers over to the young Socceroos, whereas maybe in the past, a lot of these guys haven't had that opportunity to play first team football, play against strong men opposition week in, week out. And then they go there a bit underdone because they're just playing against or playing in the NPL, playing against players their own age. And you can see with the squad there now, majority of them are playing senior football and consistently. So that's, I think, a big reason why they're performing, and that now they're into a World Cup, which is great because 12 years is a long, long time. And we've always seen with World Cups, someone has a great one, they go on to, and this is where it's kind of started back in the day for a golden generation. They played at a young Joey's or a Joey's World Cup or a young, one of those under-17 World Cups, under-20 World Cups. They go on to have a good tournament. They go overseas. They play in a big league, big club, and that's when we start to see big performance.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting now. They play Japan in the semi-final.
Yes.
And you got to look at Japan as the pinnacle of talent development and structure and how they, generate new players. So, that'll be a huge measuring stick on where you actually stand, because you're starting to compete with, the best of Asia. Let's go on and win this Asia Cup.
Yeah, it's good.
Why not?
Very good.
You went a little bit, was it Robert Stanton? The men.
We built this country
to play bare hands. Men, right, this weekend, Auckland Adelaide's a big game, isn't it? 22 men on the field there. Who else got? Wellington play Melbourne City, Central Coast Western United. Brisbane against Victory. MacArthur play Sydney FC. And the Wanderers play Perth. Glory. Make sure you watch Total A-Leagues with Vince Rugari and Tommy Orr. And, of course, the warm-up on Thursday with Daniel Djurjevski and the wild man of A-League broadcasting, Nick Stoll. But thank you so much, gentlemen. Enjoyed your company as always. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you, Archie.
Thanks, Maxie.
See you next week. Take care.